Hello there. Been a little while. Hope you're all still safe, healthy, and happy right now during this increasingly more turbulent time we find ourselves in. I've been pretty busy as I am still currently a part of the ongoing national response in the battle against COVID-19. However, at one point since my last video, the COVID-19 mission for a short time had become secondary in priority, and we actually had to prioritize protection of the community from the violent protests sparked by the unfortunate back-to-back deaths of Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and the subject of my last video, Ahmaud Arbery. After the calamitous incident concerning Mr. Arbery, there was an immense amount of outrage, as well as a cavalcade of peaceful protests, emotionally charged and intellectually stimulating social media posts and news articles concerning the story. People demanded justice while simultaneously attempting to inculcate an understanding within the general public, once again, of the sordid and tumultuous history of race relations in this country. And my friends, no sooner had I posted my own video about Ahmaud Arbery, this man's blood still practically warming the sands of Georgia, where we bombarded with the very disturbing stories of the deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. Now, obviously, my friends, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. This has been all over your newsfeed for months. However, I certainly had hope, after all that has happened, that the numerous expositions in response to recent incidents of police brutality would have actually enlightened many people who I have noticed through sometimes blatantly racist posts on social media have instead recoiled back to their political echo chambers, only to remain unenlightened and continue to circumambulate the world aimlessly in the darkness of ignorance about race relations in America. So here we are once again. No surprise that political affiliations are having a rather adverse effect on human ability to rationally excogitate information put out through the media, and as usual, in turn, is having an overall detrimental effect on any potential forward progress of society as a whole. I spoke about it in a previous video as it pertains to the coronavirus, but here's what I mean as it pertains to recent events related to social justice. My friends, if there has been any time that we should be much more coagulate as a society, now is that time. While we are still literally in the middle of a pandemic and natural disasters have been accosting our country from coast to coast, simultaneously we have had protests on the behalf of social justice, the likes of which hasn't been seen since the civil rights era. Even though I think we can all agree that 2020 has been one heck of a year for everyone, it is also an election year, and naturally we are more divided right now. So, how does someone like me think we can come together? Well, my friends, as these issues tend to have a great many layers to them, we could be talking about this without surcease. But for the simple purpose of this video, just a few things that I think will make a great first step for those of you who genuinely want to get involved to help make a change, and particularly those of you who seem to find all this carrying on about social justice to be rather unpropitious. First of all, I would like to say, for those of you who get offended when someone says Black Lives Matter and you're like, well, all lives matter, or what about Chicago, or what about black on black crime? Or you like to regurgitate some statistics about the proportion of blacks versus everybody else who gets killed by the police, right? I would say to you something that would be a little more efficacious in helping us all move forward convivially with all this is, instead of just regurgitating those typical echo chamber rebuttals, you need to make a concerted effort to accrue a deeper understanding of the long, sordid history of racial injustice in America, which invariably will require that you first open your mind and take what will likely be a very vexatious first step outside of your political echo chamber. Why? Well, for a multitude of reasons, but in particular, what you need to learn is that not just black people, but just about every ethnic group that has set foot here has had to fight against racism in some form or another, literally since day one. Okay, but principally, for your increased understanding of the particular focus of recent events, you need to learn about the struggle for equality as it pertains specifically to African Americans. And what you're probably going to learn first, my friends, is how horrible slavery really was. Concordantly, you're going to learn exactly why most of us have a rather visceral disdain for the Confederate flag, as well as all these statues some people seem to love so much, of people who were literally willing to fight to the death for the right to own people like myself as human cattle. From there, you are inexorably going to learn about the multitude of grotesqueries derived over the course of a century of post-Civil War systemic racism that still have an effect on our society to this day. You are going to learn about things like the Black Codes, the Jim Crow era, community redlining, sundown towns. You're going to learn about the numerous race massacres that occurred not just in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but also in many other places like Colfax, Wilmington, Atlanta, Elaine, and Rosewood. Dig deep enough, and you will also learn about how over time the 13th Amendment has been ignominiously exploited over the years to create a for-profit prison system of modern-day slavery. Also important, as you're going about this research, you need to take the time to listen to what actual black people you know have to say about what's going on. Let them tell you some of their crazy stories so you understand just how real this is for everyday African Americans. Now, once again, just because I know there are a lot of people who are just downright recalcitrant, stay out of your political echo chamber. That means your usual go-tos for when you want to know what black people think about current issues. Those people, of course, being Candace Owens, the Hodge twins, the black redneck guy, black Stone Cold Steve Austin, angry black police officer, and giant MAGA hat black guy do not count. So, now that you've been exposed to this information, it seems you have a choice. For those of you who are yet still incredulous in the face of all this protesting for social justice, or perhaps you're just so obstinate that you simply just cannot open your mind to the potentiality of learning some uncomfortable truths, take the blue pill. Forget everything I've just said and go right on back to the pulpous comfort of your political and ideological echo chamber. But I implore you, if this is what you choose to do, please do America a favor. Do your absolute best not to pass any of your implicit racial biases, prejudices, or ideals onto your offspring. Otherwise, the cycle will continue in perpetuity and we'll just be right back where we started. Or you can take the red pill. Take a trip down the rabbit hole into the history of racial issues plaguing our country for centuries and be one step closer to social justice enlightenment. So, I think at this point it might be safe to say that some of you may feel like I have a great deal of vitriol only for people on one side of this issue, that maybe I myself am just politically biased. You may even think I'm condoning all the rioting and looting going on just because it's in the name of social justice. Although it is my understanding that most of the protests have actually been peaceful, obviously that's not what gets TV ratings. But I think we can all agree that such deplorable behavior as destruction of property, looting, and of course, the purposeless taking of human life during this rumbustious time significantly discredits the movement, the message, and is not necessarily conducive to a progressive, amicable solution to our issues right now. However, understand that to end the pestilence that is racial injustice, it will take a coordinated effort from us all, where we must focus on rectifying the injustice itself as opposed to a focus on regulating how victims of the injustice express their discontentedness with it. With that understanding, I would like to end this installment by proposing what I think will, in the meantime, be a much more acceptable protest that will be bolstered by your newfound knowledge and understanding of the struggle for civil rights and equality. A protest that is completely nonviolent, a protest that will eliminate the possibility of property destruction and the potential for needless loss of life. My friends, there is no ignorance. There is knowledge. May the Force be with you.